Just imagine this for a second. You're in a conference room, the AC is on full blast, and the screen in front of you is just covered in these super complex graphs. Your boss is speaking with so much passion, using these huge words like synergistic outcomes, paradigm shift, leveraging core competencies. And you're nodding along, you're taking notes, but the moment the meeting ends, as soon as you step out of that room, you turn to your colleague and you're just thinking, what just happened in there?
Exactly. I mean, did you really understand the problem? Or were you just impressed by the sound of their words? That's the feeling we're going to deconstruct today. This gap, where everything sounds so intelligent, but the clarity is just zero. The kind of situation that makes you feel like maybe you're the one who's not smart enough. But honestly, is it really your fault?
Welcome to this deep dive into corporate confusion. Today, we're taking apart a corporate archetype that I'm pretty sure we've all faced. We call them the polished manipulator. You know these are the people who create this grand illusion with sophisticated language, but hiding right behind it is a deep, deep insecurity. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to break this down in 6 parts. First, we'll identify this archetype. Then, we'll untangle their web of words. After that, we'll look behind their wall of insecurity. We'll analyze the ecosystem of control they build, look at the silent damage they do to a company, and finally, we'll leave you with a really powerful insight: clarity versus control. So let's start with how to spot them. The biggest sign of a polished manipulator is right here. Their goal is to look smart, not necessarily to be smart. See, creating real impact isn't their target. Creating the perception of impact is. And that's a fundamental difference you really need to understand. And you know, their greatest weapon is always their words. The illusion of sophistication. This is the web they weave, and believe me, everyone from junior team members to senior management can get caught in it. They use complex language like a shield. So let's take a look at their language toolkit. First, they use complex jargon just to dominate the conversation. Second, they'll always talk in abstracts, never get down to the specifics. Third, getting a straight yes or no out of them is, well, it's pretty much impossible. And fourth, with all of this, they create this intellectual pressure on you, so you're actually afraid to ask questions.
Oh my God, this is so real. It reminds me of my ex-manager. We were in this super important project review. Everyone was expecting clear action items. And I asked a really simple question. So, are we going ahead with option A or option B for the launch? It was a very, very simple question.
Of course, and this is their classic translation guide. Priya, I bet the answer to your question was one of these. When they say, let's operationalize the synergies, what they really mean is, I don't have a clear plan yet. When they say, we need to circle back on this, they're actually just saying, I want to avoid this question. And my personal favorite? This requires a more nuanced view, which basically means your simple answer is making me look bad because I didn't think of it. Exactly! In response to my simple A or B question, he gave a 5-minute lecture and ended with this exact line. Priya, we need to ensure we are not boiling the ocean, but are we even in the right water body? The whole room went silent. Everyone thought, wow, that's so deep. But at the end of the meeting, nobody knew what to do. The action item was 0, just pure confusion. But the real question is, why do they do this? All this jargon, all this confusion, it all comes down to their psychology. And the root cause is professional insecurity. These complex words, this confusion, it's all just a wall they build to hide their insecurity. Let's actually define this. Hidden insecurity is that state where a leader feels threatened by the smart, competent people in their own team. When a team member brings too much clarity or proposes a clear solution, they feel like they're losing control. So they start controlling the perception of everything just so they can avoid being held directly accountable for anything.
You know, that's exactly what happened to me once. I put a new idea in a presentation and showed it to my boss in private. He told me, "Brilliant idea, Priya. This is a real game changer." I was so happy. But the next day in the team meeting, he stopped me right before I could present and said, "Let me set the context first." And then he diluted my idea so much that all its power was gone. My game changer idea was reduced to just an interesting thought starter.
And that's their classic pattern. Private appreciation, public dilution. They'll praise you in private to keep you motivated, but in public, they'll water down your ideas so that all the credit stays with them and no one gets ahead of them. It's all a result of their insecurity, which forces them to act this way. So what happens when a person is this insecure? Well, they start building an ecosystem around themselves that feeds their insecurity, an environment that never challenges them. We call this the ecosystem of control or, well, the wall of yes, sir. This ecosystem has some key characteristics. One, they surround themselves with sycophants, people who just agree with everything they say. Two, they use these same people to validate their own narratives. Three, they will always avoid a logical confrontation. The moment you bring up data and facts, they'll just change the topic. And four, this one's the most dangerous. They subtly pit team members against each other just to keep everyone divided so no one can unite against them.
Absolutely. We had this HOD in our department. His meetings weren't discussions, they were performances. He had 2 or 3 favorite people whose only job was to say absolutely sir and great point sir to everything. If anyone raised a valid logical question, the boss wouldn't answer them directly. He'd turn to one of his favorites and say, "What do you think?" And they, of course, would take the boss's side. Slowly, people just stopped asking questions. Innovation just died. The meetings became a complete formality.
And Priya, what you just described, that's the silent damage to the company. These things might not seem like a big deal in the short term, but their long-term organizational cost is huge. It's like a slow poison that hollows out the company culture from the inside.
And the impact is like a domino effect. Step 1, the real talent either mentally disengages or just leaves the company. Step 2, decision-making grinds to a halt. You have endless meetings with zero action. Step 3, the culture becomes political. Perception starts to matter way more than actual performance. And finally, step 4, the system starts rewarding people just like them. The executors leave, and the manipulators win.
It's so true, it's actually sad. I was part of a team once. We were fantastic. So much high energy, great ideas. We were really doing something big. Then a new polished manipulator manager came in. Within a year, that entire team fell apart. The people who truly loved their work, they were the first ones to leave. Because for them, dealing with the daily politics and all that meaningless, sophisticated talk was just impossible. It was a silent, slow death of a brilliant team.
So after all these stories and all this analysis, what's the one thing you should take away from this? The final insight really boils down to a simple yet powerful conflict: clarity versus control. And this isn't just a corporate concept, it's a leadership philosophy. Think about it. When you, as a leader or a colleague, are clear, when you speak in simple terms, give direct feedback, you build trust. Your team knows what you're saying and why you're saying it. They have faith in you. Clarity is really the foundation of any strong team. And the other side of that coin is confusion. When you intentionally make things complex, when you stay vague, what you're really building is control. You're using information as a tool for power. People become dependent on you for answers that you never give them straight anyway. The entire game of the polished manipulator is summarized in this one line. So we want to leave you with this one final thought. The next time you're in a meeting where everything sounds really sophisticated, but you just feel confused, don't be impressed. Try to look behind that sophistication. Because remember, the more sophisticated the confusion, the deeper the insecurity.
So be a force for clarity. Don't be afraid to ask simple questions. Asking "what does that mean exactly?" isn't a sign of foolishness. It's a sign of strength.
Don't let the illusion of sophistication intimidate you. True leaders aren't the ones who sound smart. They're the ones who build clarity and trust within their teams. The only question is, which kind of leader do you want to be? It's definitely something to think about.